Hello and welcome back once again. My name is Olo, and this time we've got to talk about Godfall, the upcoming looter slasher from Counterplay Games. Intrigued by this title as a looter slasher and a launch title for the PlayStation 5, I've been waiting for more news on this since the cinematic trailer last year at the Game Awards. And finally, we got a new gameplay trailer reveal at the PlayStation 5 showcase event last week, which was then followed by lots and lots of great information via different interviews and different reveals. And now that we've had some real information, as a Souls fan, I am really excited for this game. But I think Monster Hunter fans should be very excited too. This co-op looter slasher is set in a fantasy world filled with knights and ancient magic, using melee combat for its core gameplay elements, surrounded by powerful abilities, fighting to unlock godlike armor and powers on top of all of that. Now, Godfall is attempting to combine games like Dark Souls and God of War with progression systems and loot mechanics like that of Borderlands, Division, or even Destiny, while the melee combat itself is actually heavily and directly inspired by Monster Hunter World, where skill is required to fight successfully. In this game, we'll be fighting and playing with up to 3 other friends in co-op to fight beasts and monsters and big bad bosses too. Now that I've piqued your interest, let's start with the story and the world of Godfall. Now, from the PlayStation blog post from Keith Lee, the CEO of Counterplay Games, he explained the vibe and story setting for Godfall. The new gameplay trailer gives players a glimpse into the world called Aperion, which is on the edge of ruin. Inspired by the Stormlight Archive, the world is actually split up into realms: earth, water, air, fire, and spirit. And we'll be playing as one of the last remnants of an exalted knight's order, intent on stopping the apocalypse and preserving the last vestiges of their world, as we play as one of the main characters from the list of playable protagonists, one of the last of the Valoran Knights, these godlike warriors, who use these Valor plates, the legendary armor sets that transform their wielders into unstoppable masters of combat. We're going to be tearing through foes as we climb these 5 elemental realms and challenge the mad god Macross, who waits at the very top, i.e. we'll be climbing our way through this very Olympian style land to reach the very top of the mountain to challenge the monstrous god who awaits us there. Very God of War, isn't it? Climbing Olympus to challenge Zeus like in God of War 2. Now, logically, we will get more powerful each layer as we progress, with more abilities and more, varied weapons, alongside the increased difficulty and varied challenges of the enemies too. I would assume that we'll face off against one main boss per layer and ascend to the next upon defeating it. It's a solid setup for a game and style of game, but what matters most now is the gameplay. Does that look good? Is it varied? Is it rewarding? Well, firstly, let's talk about weapons. Godfall will feature 5 main weapons on launch, like that of Monster Hunter, which will require skill and effort to use effectively, using timings and combos, parries, dodging, and more, which should be much more fleshed out than just button spam in a satisfying combat style. We're going to swap between 2 main weapons of choice in mid-battle for varied combinations of attacks and playstyle too. These weapon classes are meant to be flexible, letting you create a versatile character whichever way you want to go, creating different combinations for hybrid style of gameplay. We saw 4 weapon types in the gameplay trailer: the sword and shield, the hammer, a spear, and the dual-wielded swords. Then later in the PC gaming showcase, we got to see that 5th weapon, which was apparently the great sword. Yes, there's a great sword. And in the trailer, we see a glimpse of weapon swapping in combat, like when this warrior is holding the dual swords and then pulls out the shield mid-combat for this shield bash, then swaps straight back to the dual swords immediately. And as you can see, it's very smooth mid-combat, not clunky at all or requiring like a moment's pause, something you can literally do in between weapon swings for fluid weapon swapping. And yes, 5 weapon types is a lot less than the 14 that we see in Monster Hunter World today, but come on, Monster Hunter has been ongoing for many years and has some of the best weapon systems in any game ever. I think it's clear that Monster Hunter inspired these devs and they've created their own version of it, but instead of limiting you to 1 weapon per hunt and then you have to swap after, we're actively able to swap between 2 of the 5 mid-combat. That provides a lot of possibilities in weapon combinations and abilities and attacks for different uses, which should hopefully tide us over while they work on releasing more weapon types in the future, I would assume. Now, let's talk about the armor, which does in fact play an important role in mid-combat, you might be surprised to find out. These armor sets are special suits known as the Valor Plates, which are scattered throughout the different realms. We're going to find them and equip them in different combinations because they can be augmented with mods, resulting in different abilities or cause different beneficial effects. There's a great example in the trailer here in which we see this warrior begin to glow gold before beginning this semi-ranged assault with multiple swords as a new style of play. That's one of these Valor Plate abilities at work, which is really cool that the armor is part of the offensive combat as well, allowing you to create different builds based on your preferences from the very armor you're wearing, rather than just choosing, weapons and weapon styles and then passive effects of armor. So hopefully, once again, this helps alleviate my concerns for the just 5 weapon classes, since there's going to be a lot of gameplay variety in builds, in abilities, alongside the not 1 but 2 weapons we're using mid-combat. So that's the story and equipment. Let's throw out some extra various bits of info we've learned from the interviews so far. Combat-wise, we'll be facing big group encounters, cat and mouse style dangers to avoid, and big boss battles too. And in this combat, we're actually going to get to use some ranged attacks as well, but they're going to be limited overall. I would assume they're tied to the abilities so that we can't overplay a ranged style of combat in this very melee focused game, but they're there and they're definitely going to have their uses. Next, unfortunately, Godfall is not cross-generation like you may have hoped due to the launch period. It's launching on PlayStation 5 and Epic Games Store for PC. We will not be able to play this one on PlayStation 4 or any sort of cross-play capacity with older generations. However, the PlayStation 5, with its new technology, has allowed them to add different elements to the gameplay through improved haptic control. This apparently let the devs use the adaptive triggers of the new PlayStation 5 controller to add to the combat, described as kinesthetic in nature. The attacks are meant to feel better in the hands when you're in combat, resulting in sort of a better feedback loop to add weight to hits, which sounds awesome. Weight on hits is crucial for a melee fighter to feel good when you're in that combat. You really need to feel like you're staggering that opponent, even more so if you're using a big weapon like the hammer, or when you're being hit or landed that powerful parry. It needs to feel impactful. A great example of this is the Dark Souls parry sound effect. It's like slow-mo or something. This new technology certainly sounds like the next step in this aspect of gaming and immersion, so I'm very excited to try it, and I'll probably be playing this game with a controller plugged into my PC. Finally, the release is set for holiday 2020, which is sometime between September and December. I would obviously assume that whenever the launch of the PlayStation 5 is officially announced, Godfall's official date will also be revealed. We are supposedly getting much more information soon, with a lot more specific depth on each of these major details in the near future, so look out for my videos on that, because obviously I want to hear more about that and I want to share that new information with you guys whenever we get it. For now though, that's everything I've got for you today for this All We Know for Godfall. I'm super excited for this game. I love looter shooters, but I'm obviously smitten for good melee combat in any setting, but a Greek Olympian style setting for that is so good. Then to hear that they're taking that insanely good weapon style of combat from Monster Hunter, that could be hundreds of hours of fun. We'll have to wait and see though, but thankfully not too long thanks to that near release. Either way, thank you very much for watching. I've been Hollow, you've been you, and I'll see you next time.